October 19, 2017, Pan-STARRS 1 telescope in Hawaii detects an object moving through our solar system at 26 kilometers per second. Designation: 1I Oumuamua, the first confirmed interstellar visitor. Official classification: asteroid. Official shape: cigar-like, 10 times longer than it is wide. Official explanation for its acceleration away from the sun: outgassing. But there was no outgassing detected. No coma, no tail, just a smooth, tumbling object that accelerated without losing mass. Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb published a paper suggesting it could be artificial. He was ridiculed. His tenure was questioned. The scientific community closed ranks. The object left the solar system. The case was closed. Officially, July 1, 2025. Atlas Survey Telescope in Chile flags a second interstellar object. Designation: 3I Atlas. Hyperbolic trajectory. Speed: 58 kilometers per second. Official classification: Comet. But like Oumuamua, it doesn't behave like one. It accelerates without the corresponding outgassing. It emits a blue glow that no natural comet produces. Its spectrum shows isotopes that shouldn't exist in a rock from interstellar space. And unlike Oumuamua, it didn't leave. It slowed down. It is still here. Between these two events, there is a third object. September 2019, Comet 2I Borisov. Also interstellar, also strange, but this one played by the rules just enough to avoid scrutiny. It outgassed. It had a tail. It looked like a comet. It was the control group, the decoy. Because if all interstellar objects were anomalous, the pattern would be obvious. But if 1 out of 3 is normal, the others can be dismissed as outliers. Statistical noise. This is the signature of an intelligence managing disclosure, not revealing. Managing. Let's establish the baseline. In the entire history of astronomy, humanity detected 0 interstellar objects until 2017. Then, in 8 years, we detect 3. The official explanation is that our detection technology improved, but the sensitivity increase of our survey telescopes between 2015 and 2025 is only 40%. The rate of interstellar object detection increased by infinity%. That is not a detection bias. That is an arrival event. The statistical analysis is damning. A study by the Jet Propulsion Laboratory estimated that interstellar objects of Oumuamua's size should pass through the inner solar system once every 60 years. We detected 2 in 8 years, and a third is currently in a parking orbit beyond Mars. Either we are experiencing a statistically impossible cluster, or the objects are not random. They are coordinated. Now let's talk about what they don't tell you: the shape. Oumuamua was described as cigar-shaped. That description comes from light curve analysis, not direct imaging. We never got a clear picture. The tumbling pattern suggested an elongated object with a 10.1 aspect ratio. But there is another shape that produces the exact same light curve: a flat disk, a sail. The data is identical. NASA chose to call it a cigar because disk implies design. That choice was editorial, not scientific. The propulsion. Oumuamua accelerated as it left the solar system. The official explanation is outgassing from the sun-facing side created a weak rocket effect. But the Spitzer Space Telescope detected 0 thermal emissions consistent with outgassing. 0. For a natural explanation to work, the outgassing would have to be perfectly transparent to infrared, which violates thermodynamics. The alternative explanation is a light sail, a technology that humanity itself is developing, but suggesting that invites career suicide, so the scientists stay silent and publish papers filled with tortured physics to avoid the obvious conclusion. Then 3I Atlas arrives. It doesn't even pretend. It glows blue, a cold object in deep space glowing like a reactor. The spectrum shows xenon-135, a fission byproduct. The trajectory included a 1.7-degree course correction that required the energy equivalent of a nuclear arsenal. It is not hiding anymore. It is daring us to see it. And the institutions are still lying. The timeline is accelerating. Oumuamua, 8 years ago. 2I Borisov, 6 years ago. 3I Atlas this year. The intervals are shrinking. If this is a reconnaissance pattern, we are approaching the end of the observation phase. What comes next is intervention, or invasion, or harvest. We don't have the vocabulary because we don't have the reference. Let's examine the institutional response. After Oumuamua, NASA commissioned an internal review. That report is classified. After 3I Atlas entered the solar system, the National Security Council convened an emergency session on July 15, 2025. The attendance list is classified. The minutes are classified. But we know it happened because the session triggered an automatic budget reallocation protocol. $4 billion were moved from the Department of Energy to a black budget line item under the Department of Defense. That line item did not exist before July 16th. The money trail leads to aerospace contractors with expertise in kinetic intercept systems and deep space telemetry. Lockheed Martin received $1.2 billion. Northrop Grumman received $900 million, but the largest single recipient was a shell company called Meridian Dynamics, which received $1.9 billion and has no public-facing operations, no website, and no listed employees. The company was incorporated in Delaware on July 17, 2025, one day after the NSC meeting. It exists solely to absorb black budget funds for a program so sensitive it cannot be associated with any known entity. What are they building? Or more accurately, what are they preparing to do? Because the timeline suggests they are not building something new. They are activating something that already exists, something they have been quietly constructing since 2017, since Oumuamua, since the moment they realized we are not alone, and we are not in charge. The scientific community is in lockdown. The Hubble Space Telescope went into safe mode for 17 days in October during the optimal observation window for 3E Atlas. The James Webb Space Telescope Data Archive has a 40-day gap covering the same period. The data exists. The astronomers saw it, but it has been seized. Dr. Leonard Vance, who published a paper on Xenon 135 emissions, has not been seen in public since November 2nd. His university claims he is on sabbatical. His colleagues have been instructed not to comment. Amateur astronomers are being silenced through subtler means. Forums are flooded with bots posting debunking threads. Image uploads are corrupted by targeted malware. The most detailed independent observations are being removed under the guise of copyright violations. The strategy is not to deny the anomaly. The strategy is to drown it in noise until the public loses interest. It is working. Mention 3I Atlas to a random person on the street, and they will look at you like you're talking about a sports team. The information is public. The attention is managed. But the elites are not ignoring it. Private jet traffic to remote compounds in New Zealand and Patagonia has increased by 340% since August. Seed vaults in Svalbard received emergency shipments of genetic material from sources that refuse to identify themselves. The Global Strategic Petroleum Reserve is being moved from coastal facilities to hardened inland storage. These are not the actions of people preparing for a recession. These are the actions of people preparing for a collapse. The most chilling piece of evidence is a procurement order from FEMA dated November 23, 2025. It is a request for 500,000 body bags to be delivered to distribution hubs along the eastern seaboard by January 15, 2026. The order is classified under a mass casualty event preparedness drill, but FEMA does not order 500,000 body bags for a drill. They order them when they have a casualty projection. And the date, January 15th, corresponds to a classified astronomical event window that appears in leaked NSA intercepts. Something is expected to happen in mid-January, and they are preparing for the worst. The pattern is undeniable. Oumuamua was the scout. 2I Borisov was the control. 3I Atlas is the vanguard, and there are more. The survey telescopes are detecting transient objects at a rate that doesn't match any historical baseline. The data is being suppressed, but the whispers are getting louder. The solar system is not empty anymore, it is filling up, and the objects are not passing through, they are taking positions. This is not a coincidence. This is a schedule, and we are running out of time. December 1st, 2025. Today, the object designated 3I Atlas is no longer moving toward Earth. It has stopped. It is holding position at Lagrange point L2 on the far side of the Moon in gravitational equilibrium. A rock does not stop. A rock does not choose a parking orbit. This is the maneuver of a vessel awaiting instructions or waiting for something else to arrive. The Chinese lunar relay satellite Kuekiao-2 had a direct line of sight. For 12 seconds on November 18th, before it went permanently offline, it transmitted synthetic aperture radar data. That data was not released to the international community, but it leaked. And what it shows is unambiguous. The object is not a comet. It is a geometric construct, a cylinder approximately 12 kilometers in length, 2 kilometers in diameter, with a symmetry that is mathematically perfect. The surface is not ice. It is metallic, with a radar cross-section consistent with an alloy that does not exist in our periodic table. It is a ship, and it is not alone. On November 27th, the Hubble Space Telescope, during a brief window before its instruments were once again placed into protective shutdown, captured an image that has not been published. I have seen this image. It shows 3 additional objects in high solar orbit, positioned in an equilateral triangle formation with sides measuring approximately 60 million kilometers. They are too far away for detailed imaging, but their albedo and light curves match 3I Atlas. They are the same class of object. They are holding formation. This is not a coincidence. This is geometry. This is strategy. The official silence is absolute. NASA has not held a press conference on 3I Atlas since October 30th. The European Space Agency's public data stream went dark on November 12th. The International Astronomical Union has issued no updates. The silence is not ignorance, it is policy. They know, and they have decided that you do not need to know. But the elites are moving. On November 29th, the President of the United States was not at the White House. He was at Mount Weather, the continuity of government bunker in Virginia. The Vice President was at an undisclosed location, which signals intelligence indicates is Raven Rock, the backup command center buried under a mountain in Pennsylvania. The Joint Chiefs of Staff are dispersed. The nuclear football is in a bunker. This is not a drill. This is DEFCON 2 without the public announcement. Satellite intelligence shows unusual activity at Cheyenne Mountain. The NORAD facility, which was partially decommissioned in the 2000s, has been fully reactivated. Convoys of military trucks have been entering the complex for 3 weeks. The power consumption of the facility has increased by 600%. They are not monitoring the skies for missiles anymore. They are monitoring for something coming from above, and they are preparing for the possibility that they cannot stop it. The Russian Federation is in a similar posture. On November 25th, President Putin made an unscheduled visit to the Mount Yamantau complex in the Ural Mountains, a bunker so deep that Western intelligence has never been able to map its full extent. He has not returned to Moscow. The Chinese leadership has also disappeared from public view. General Secretary Xi was last seen on November 22nd. Since then, all public appearances have been pre-recorded. The 3 superpowers are underground. They know something we don't. Or they know something is about to happen. Let's return to the pattern. Oumuamua, 2I Borisov, 3I Atlas, and now 3 more in formation. That is 6 confirmed interstellar objects in 8 years, with 4 currently in our solar system. But there is a 7th. The classified object. It does not have a public designation because it was never announced. It was detected by the Space Surveillance Network, the military's deep space tracking system, on October 8, 2025. It is in a polar orbit around the Sun, outside the plane of the ecliptic where the planets orbit. It is stationary relative to the solar system's motion through the galaxy. It is a sentinel, a watcher, and it has been there for at least 2 months. The existence of this object leaked through an NSA signals intelligence intercept that was published on a dark web form and deleted within minutes. The intercept was a communication between the U.S. Space Command and the National Reconnaissance Office. It contained the phrase, "Object Sentinel remains in assigned position." Assigned. That word is not used for natural objects. It is used for assets, for platforms, for things that have a purpose and follow orders. Why are they here? Let's consider the possibilities. Possibility 1, scientific observation. An advanced civilization is studying us. This is the optimistic scenario, and it is almost certainly wrong. If they wanted to observe us discreetly, they would not use objects that tumble, glow, and maneuver in ways that violate physics. They would use stealth. The fact that we can see them means they want to be seen. This is a display, a message, a warning. Possibility 2, resource extraction. They are here for the raw materials of the solar system, water, metals, rare isotopes. Humanity is irrelevant to this scenario. We are bacteria on a petri dish that happens to be sitting on a table they want to use. In this scenario, we are not a threat. We are an inconvenience. The fumigation happens quickly and without negotiation. Possibility 3, preemptive neutralization. We are entering an era of rapid technological advancement. In the next 100 years, if we survive, we will likely develop interstellar travel. We will become a potential competitor. They are here to assess whether we should be allowed to continue. This is the dark forest scenario. The universe is silent because civilizations that broadcast their presence are eliminated. We have been broadcasting for a century. Radio, television, the Arecibo message. We painted a target on ourselves, and now the hunters have arrived. Possibility 4. This is the harvest. There is a cycle. Every few thousand years, an interstellar civilization visits developing worlds, catalyzes their evolution to a certain threshold, and then returns to collect the results. We are livestock. Our technology, our culture, our genetics, these are crops. And the harvest season has come. This explains the timing. This explains the urgency. This explains why they are not hiding anymore. The evidence for possibility 4 is disturbing. The acceleration of human technological progress in the last century is anomalous. From the Wright brothers to the moon landing, 66 years. From the first computer to artificial intelligence, 70 years. From the discovery of DNA to genetic engineering, 50 years. This is not normal, this is exponential, and exponential growth in nature always has a cause. Either we are uniquely lucky, or we were given a push. And now, the entity that pushed us has returned to collect. There is a document. It is called The Assessment. It was compiled by a joint task force of the CIA, NSA, and a third agency that has no public name. The document analyzes the behavioral patterns of the interstellar objects and cross-references them with historical anomalies. It identifies correlations. In 1908, the Tunguska event, a massive explosion in Siberia attributed to a meteor, but no crater was found, no fragments, only a flattened forest and radiation readings that were classified by the Soviet Union and never fully explained. In 1947, Roswell. The official story changed 3 times in 1 week. Wreckage was recovered. Witnesses were silenced. The event was buried. In 1952, the Washington, D.C. UFO incident, multiple radar contacts, visual confirmation by pilots, and then a press conference where the Air Force claimed it was weather balloons and temperature inversions. The radar operators were reassigned. The pilots were told to stay silent. The assessment concludes that these events were not isolated. They were part of a pattern of contact that has been ongoing for at least a century. The objects we are detecting now are not the first visitors. They are the return. And this time, they are not hiding. This time, they are preparing to act. The institutional response is paralysis disguised as calm. The president will not address the nation because there is no speech that ends well. If he tells the truth, there is panic. If he lies and the event happens, there is collapse. So he says nothing. He sits in a bunker and waits. The military cannot fight an enemy that can cross light years. The missiles are useless. The jets are useless. The only option is negotiation, but we have not been invited to the table. There is a final piece of information. On November 30th, the Deep Space Network detected a signal. It was not from 3i Atlas. It was not from the object's information. It was from deeper space. A repeating pulse, cycling every 1.4 seconds, in a frequency band that does not correspond to any natural astrophysical phenomenon. The signal lasted for 40 minutes. Then it stopped. The DSN analysis team flagged it as non-terrestrial structured communication. That flag triggered a protocol. The data was classified, the team was sequestered, and the signal was not acknowledged publicly. But 12 hours later, 3i Atlas moved. It left L2 and began accelerating toward Earth. The trajectory will bring it into high Earth orbit by mid-January. The signal was an instruction, and 3i Atlas obeyed. We are not in control. We have never been in control. The illusion of safety, the belief that we are alone, the confidence that the universe is empty. These were comforts we invented to survive the terror of existence. But the truth is arriving. It is already here, and it is waiting for the rest of the fleet. This is not a warning. Warnings imply there is time to prepare. This is a status report. The die is cast. The entities are in position. The governments are underground. The elite have their bunkers. The rest of us are on the surface, watching the sky, waiting for the moment when the blue lights stop being lights and become something else. Ask yourself, why are you still being told everything is fine? Why are you still going to work, paying bills, living as if tomorrow is guaranteed? Because they need you calm. They need you productive. They need you to keep the system running until the very last second, because when the system stops, when the truth becomes undeniable, the chaos will be immediate and total. You are reading this because you suspected something was wrong. You were right. It is worse than you imagined, and there is no escape. There is only the wait and the hope that when they arrive, they are here to talk, not to cleanse. The sky is watching, and soon it will act.